Hi guys, I'm glad you're all here. Thank you very much for joining me. My 1-year-old granddaughter's here with me today, so if you hear noises, yeah, that's who it is. Yeah, you just don't know when we're going to be on the edge of nuclear war. Chinese and Russian strategic bombers flew over the Sea of Japan as Joe Biden attended a Quad summit in Tokyo. It was a joint exercise the Japanese government denounced as unacceptable. The nuclear-capable bombers conducted a joint flight on Tuesday. Today is Wednesday, May 25th, 2022. Moscow said the 13-hour flight was carried out strictly in accordance with the provisions of international law. The exercises were held on the final day of Biden's trip to Asia, as he participated at a summit of the Quad, the security group of the U.S., Japan, Australia, India, and that China has criticized as a Asian NATO. President Biden ruffled some feathers when at the meeting, when asked if Taiwan was ever attacked, would the U.S. come to their defense, and he said they most certainly would. The White House then disputed it, but then there was another article that came out. It says Biden says he wasn't changing policy towards Taiwan. Those words clearly showed otherwise. Maybe it's a good cop, bad cop routine, where the Chinese know how the president really feels, even as the White House walk back provides diplomatic cover. Here on Fox News, it says the pattern has become unmistakable. Biden called Vladimir Putin a war criminal, then said he was just offering his personal opinion as opposed to arguing an international legal process. Biden said Putin shouldn't be allowed to remain in power. A clear misstep that got us nothing, and the White House walked back on that statement too. Said the president wasn't calling for a regime change, but soon afterward, Biden repeated his, personal view. Then North Korea launched 3 missiles towards the sea, hours after Joe Biden left Asia, where he promised to bolster measures to deter the nuclear-armed state. Evidently, people of South Korea were not very concerned about this latest test. South Korea Joint Chiefs of Staff said all 3 were fired in less than an hour from Sanang, Pyongyang, which was the first thought to be an intercontinental ballistic missile. So 3 missiles were shot, 1 being an intercontinental ballistic missile. This would make the nation's 17th round of weapons testing just this year alone. The second missile appeared to fail mid-flight, while the third was a short-range ballistic missile. William Gallo posted that there was lots of missiles flying around today in Korea. North Korea launched 3 in response. The U.S. and South Korea launched 2 of their own. And it says here, it's not even noon. Yeah, that's not in the news that the U.S. and South Korea responded by firing 2 of our own missiles. Another Twitter post he shared, it says, of course, your regular reminder that South Korea don't get worked up over North Korea missile launches. In fact, they barely even make the news here at all. So it's no secret that Putin is an ally of China, and Russia has made a lot of threats recently about the conflict that they're having there in Europe, in Ukraine, which got me thinking about how prepared are we here in the United States in the event of a nuclear war. I think a lot of us do feel that it's coming. My town here in South Dakota, Watertown, as far as I can find out, has only 3 fallout shelters. This here is a sign that was on the outside of my bank, which now has been removed, and I talked to the bank manager about why it was removed, and he said that the city was not willing to supply the food, medical equipment that would be required for a fallout shelter for 2 weeks. Now, this shelter originally would hold about 270 people, but it's no longer maintained, so they took the sign down. One of the other fallout shelters that supposedly it is maintained, it has been turned into a business. I don't know how many people it can hold, but it's run by a Christian organization, Fallout Shelter Ministry, and they give self-defense classes. According to emergency management, who I talked to yesterday, this here is one of the 3 fallout shelters here in my city. The other one would be in the basement of the post office, and the other one is at a center where they have activities. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is, but we only got 3. Probably would hold less than 1,000 people for a population of about 25,000. In the 1970s, the government money to maintain the fallout shelters that John F. Kennedy said he was going to develop and create for the people. That money dried up, and yeah, they're no longer funded. The gentleman that is in charge of emergency management evidently seen the need with the recent threats of nuclear war and was going around to inspect and find out what buildings were capable for fallout shelters. Yeah, that should tell you something. But as of today, May 25th, 2022, there's only 3 in our town. And I was told that he will not be back in the office until Tuesday next week. So if you think the government's going to come to your rescue during a time of emergency, boy, yeah. We're basically on our own right now. You would be better to shelter in place in your home and find out what you need to make a safe space from the gamma rays and the fallout. I did find a video where they talked about fallout would be limited to 200 miles, which I really doubt that, because a nuclear blast can go up to about 20 miles into the air, and who knows how far that would be carried. Yeah, the radioactive fallout, which would consist of all the rocks and particles from the buildings that were destroyed, and gases. But here we've had these threats, and to think that only now, within this last week, our city government is actually taking nuclear war seriously, where they're trying to find what buildings might be available for people to shelter in. That's rather scary. You know, and like I said, majority of the people think that the government's going to come to your rescue, and it's not. So the question is, are you taking the threat of nuclear war serious? Are you preparing? Do you plan on having at least 2 weeks of food and water and shelter in place while we get that radioactive fallout that comes down on us, if that should happen? Have you looked into how to make your home safe during a time of radioactive fallout? If so, please put those comments down below. And then afterwards, you got to think about life afterwards. All the soil would be contaminated with radioactive particles, and you really couldn't eat anything that was grown or raised in that area. I know for small home gardens, you could cover the soil with tarps so it's not contaminated with the fallout. But how many people have large tarps? So what are your thoughts? Please put those comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you.